Thanks.
We're back. And we're married! Oh my goodness.
I know.
Wow. How do you feel?
Very not single.
Same. So we have a life update, and we thought that it would be nice to just fill you in on what has been going on in our lives as of late, because a lot has happened. A lot of wonderful, exciting things, including our marriage. I did share already on my Instagram, and you guys have had the most incredible response, all of your kindness and support, and everyone saying congratulations and that they're so happy for us. It means the world, and we were both so blown away by everyone being so lovely about it and so sweet. We did in fact get married in the library.
Yep.
Which felt very us.
Yeah, I don't think there could have been a more fitting place.
Mm-hmm. So we wanted to fill you guys in on us getting married and what we've been reading.
Sounds good to me. So
I went to visit, and then towards the end of my time there, my family actually came to visit, and that's when we got married. So it was really nice to have both of our families together, because obviously you can tell Leon is not American. So it was really nice to have the cultures and families mesh, and it was beautiful and perfect, and it felt very us.
Yeah. Just something more, a smaller group, more relaxed.
Yeah, and the ceremony was so beautiful. I just want to talk to them about that for a bit, because my whole life I'm the youngest of my family, and Leon hasn't gone to too many weddings.
No, probably 2 in my whole life, which were about 15 years ago. So.
Yeah, and with my family, we always say someone is either pregnant or getting married constantly in my family. I have gone to and been a part of so many weddings that I don't even know how many. And so my whole life I have loved the wedding ceremony. It's like my favorite part, where you exchange vows with the person that you love in front of the people that love you. And I think it's just such a beautiful thing. And so my whole life going to different weddings, I always got so emotional when the couple exchanged vows. And when Leon and I were exchanging our vows, I was good for the first part, and then when we started, we turned to each other and we spoke to each other our vows, I broke down in tears. My voice got so high-pitched and squeaky, because it really was just it really hit me that I found the love of my life, and he was saying my name and I was saying your name, and it was just an oh my god, this is so real and insane and just beautiful and perfect. But you were very good.
I did well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You held it together.
Yeah. Just after that, when people were congratulating us.
Yeah.
I felt some semblance of a tear, but I managed to keep it in.
Yes.
So.
Yes. He has a whole wife and I have a whole husband. What?
Yeah, life is insane. In the best way.
Definitely. Oh, it's just so crazy, this time in our lives where everything is sort of falling into place, trying to figure out where we want to go, and having a partnership where it just feels lovely to have constant support and love no matter what happens. So Leon's wedding gift, I wanted to get him something that again felt very us, and I thought a book would be really special, so I didn't know what book I wanted to get, so I was doing a bunch of research, and then I found this really beautiful poetry book, and this is from Penn Macmillan, and it's Wedding Readings and Poems, edited by Becky Brown, and it's in this gorgeous edition. When I saw this, I thought it was perfect, because something that we love doing is reading aloud to each other, whether it's poetry or picture books. We were reading some of them last night. You liked the excerpt from Les Mis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the excerpt from Les Mis was really beautiful. So what I really liked about this edition was that it not only has poems, but it also has excerpts from novels. So there's one from Wuthering Heights. I think there is one from Jane Eyre.
I always like poetry collections which have a bunch of different poets or authors. So you just get the best of everyone, essentially.
Yeah.
A bunch of great ones. Obviously, Percy Shelley, John Clare, Robert Browning.
Oh, see, there's from The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I would be interested to see what part. That's something too that I'm really looking forward to reading through this, is like seeing what part Becky Brown chose to include in this collection.
Yeah, I mean there are so many, even Walt Whitman.
A favorite, a fan favorite.
A number of Shakespeare ones as well. An excerpt from The Prophet.
Yes, and Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. So I think this is just a really nice addition to go through. I was thinking it would be nice for us to just like read a few every night before bed or something like that.
I also recently finished The Count of Monte Cristo. Better late than never. Clearly the book club is too quick. Or I'm too slow. Yeah, that was phenomenal. It's impressive how much of a page turner the book is.
Absolutely.
All the way through.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 1,243 pages. I don't think there was a single point where I wasn't just shredding through the pages.
Yeah.
When I was reading it.
Yes. I could tell every time we went to read somewhere or we were reading at home, you were so in it. And I love when you get to see that, like someone experiencing, like being really invested in a book. And you're so right. It's such a page turner, and I feel like the way that he writes the dramatic scenes and the plot twists, it's like it just keeps you on the edge of your seat the whole time. It's, I think, worth every page. It's how I feel about Anna Karenina and War and Peace. It's like, even though it's really long and it takes you a while, when you finished it, didn't you say you wanted to reread it again?
Yeah, I wanted to start it again immediately.
Speaking of the Game of Tomes book club, I also finished reading Middlemarch, which Emma and I wanted to film a live show while I was visiting Leon, but that never happened because life got a little crazy for Emma and I. Clearly, I was busy getting married. Emma had a lot of stuff going on as well, so it was just trying to figure out a good time. We still want to do some sort of discussion, but just to give you my quick thoughts on Middlemarch, I thought the writing was beautiful, and I was watching a bunch of videos with different scholars talking about Middlemarch and kind of analyzing it very deeply. And I felt like it was such an interesting novel to deeply analyze, but to read for enjoyment, I didn't get much enjoyment out of it. It's basically just about these characters who have really strong dreams and goals for themselves, and just they don't reach them. And George Eliot talks about the beauty of living an ordinary life, and it's okay that you don't reach your ultimate goals. It was slightly depressing at times, and the characters, quite a few of them were just I didn't really care about them. I want to save some thoughts for the discussion, but I enjoyed it. I can see why people love it. The writing is stunning. It's not like Count of Monte Cristo where, I was flying through the pages. It's very slow paced, especially reading this after the Count. I enjoyed it, but it's not something that I feel like I want to scream to people to read, or something that I would reread very soon. I did see the importance of it in literature historically, so yeah, those are my thoughts on Middlemarch. This next book I started at the airport at the beginning of my travels. I finished it very quickly. I was surprised. Anyway, that is Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen in this beautiful Puffin in Bloom edition. So I always want to try and read a Jane Austen every year, and I only have one left now. I only have Mansfield Park left, and I'm heartbroken, especially because I loved this so much. Oh my gosh. I was so invested. The characters were so great, the dramatic emotions, and just the way that Jane Austen writes. This has definitely become one of my favorites now, with Pride and Prejudice and Emma. He was the first one to watch the movie.
I was about to say, I would also recommend watching the movie.
It was the 1995? Did it come out in 1995?
Somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there. Somewhere in the 90s.
Yeah, with Alan Rickman.
Yeah. Alan Rickman, Emma Thompson, Kate Winslet, Hugh Grant. Yeah. They are the four main.
It's a great lineup.
I know, seriously. And you watched it and really liked it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he wanted to watch it with me, so then we watched it together. I fell in love with it. And then ever since watching it with you, I wanted to read the book. And I thought that I wanted to read something that was romantic and kind of fit this time in our lives. So I thought that this was a good one. It's also centering around marriage, because that's what all Jane Austen novels kind of are centered around, or like romance, marriage, relationships. So I thought it was perfect, and it was. So thrilled to have read it and talk to you guys about it. Also, these end papers are so pretty. I shared with Leon the beauty and magic of Beatrix Potter. So one of my favorite movies is Miss Potter, which stars Renee Zellweger and Ewan McGregor.
It was great.
It was so good.
I didn't know anything about Beatrix Potter.
Yeah.
Hadn't read any of her books.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a very inspiring story. And the movie was really good.
Yeah. So then after watching that, you wanted to read her books. And I remember one of the shops near us had her books. I think it was The Tale of Peter Rabbit and Jemima Puddle Duck, but we didn't read that one.
No.
But I have my whole box set.
Okay,
so we're going to read the whole thing.
I love the style of the illustrations.
Her work is so beautiful.
Also, after reading it after watching the movie, I think was a good idea.
Yeah.
Because you can really understand her world. And you have that context going into this, and it just makes it more special.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it gives you a new perspective too, because when you read it without knowing much about her, you just read it as a book about rabbits. But then when you learn a bit more, like that's why I love researching about authors, is because I think it gives you an even deeper appreciation for their work. And it's so much more than just a book about rabbits, and I've read them since I was a little girl, so it was so wonderful to share it with you. And yeah, it's a great movie, great book, highly recommend. And then we did also read the War of Art.
The War of Art.
The War of Art, yes.
By Steven Pressfield.
Tell them how you read it, because I thought it was hilarious.
It was 10:30 or 11 p.m. We were just sat in my bedroom, sort of, I don't know, just relaxing. And I just felt like browsing my bookshelves. I sort of felt like reading but didn't know what to read. So I was just looking through my bookshelves, and then I remembered I had more books in my wardrobe. So I opened it and I sat on the floor, and I was just going through a bunch of books, and then I picked up...
I think I was either reading or like watching something, and I saw him in my peripheral vision just like going through his books, and then continue.
Yeah, and then I pulled out The War of Art. Initially, I didn't really feel like reading it, but then I decided to read a few pages just to see what it was like. I knew what it was about already when I bought it, but I hadn't actually read any of it yet. So I was like, okay, I'll just read a few pages. And then before I knew it, in about 45 minutes, I'd read the entire thing. So
it was so funny because I was like watching him look through it. I thought he was just like reading a few pages, and the next thing I know, he's like, I'm done. I finished it. And I was like, what do you mean you finished it? Yeah, I didn't even realize you were started it from the beginning.
Yeah, it was good.
And then you had me read it.
Yeah.
Because you thought that I would really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah, a lot of the pages are very short, which is why I was able to just blitz through it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it. Honest, straightforward advice on writing and creating art. Yeah.
Something that I really liked was and one of the main aspects of the book is he defines resistance. Resistance is the enemy keeping you from reaching your potential.
And then towards the end there was some discussion, commentary on Jungian psychology, which was also interesting. Nothing in depth, but if you haven't read about those ideas before, I think it's very interesting.
Yeah. There were certain moments where I was reading it where I really saw myself in... Not in everything that he talked about, but I just think it's funny when you like read something and then you sort of see yourself in it and think that I never knew how to put like that feeling into words, but it like gives you a new perspective on something that you've experienced.
Yeah, I would say anyone who's a creative of some sort would probably get something out of it. And yeah, I kind of had the same thing where there were ideas which he put into words which I had sort of felt or related to, but hadn't put into words myself before. Yeah. Which is always nice.
I did read Siddhartha.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Shall I get a copy of it?
You want to get it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, husband.
Oh.
What?
Look at the cover.
I know! How do you say his name? I never say it correctly.
I believe it's Herman Hesse.
Herman Hesse. Okay. Because sometimes I'm like,
If I'm
Hesse?
wrong, let me
like,
know.
Is it? Yeah, I think it's Hesse.
I think so.
Yes. And I really, really enjoyed it. Siddhartha, the son of a wealthy Brahmin, sets off on a quest towards enlightenment. First, he joins a group of ascetics who reject all worldly goods. But when he finds the Buddha, he is not content to simply serve as a disciple, for he realizes that self-discovery must come from his own experiences. He then rejects the spiritual life in favor of a love affair with a beautiful courtesan. He goes on to become a wealthy and successful merchant, but after some years, dissatisfied with materialism, he takes off again in search of the spiritual peace he longs for. Beautifully written in simple prose, Siddhartha is inspirational classic inspired by Indian philosophy. There were so many quotes that I loved that I took pictures of. One of them was when he was talking about the river. I don't want to give too many things away, especially because it's quite a short novel, but there were so many aspects of it, so much like symbolism and a connection to nature that I just really, really loved and resonated with.
Yeah. Are you talking about the passage of time? With the river.
Yeah, or like, didn't he, like he learned from the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that. I loved that part because I think there is so much that we can learn from nature and from rivers and trees and flowers and just being among nature. I always feel grounded and centered. Anyway, and then this cover is amazing because when I was visiting Leon, we would go to this park that had koi fish, and we loved walking to this park and just like looking at the koi fish, and we would I would talk to them. Sometimes you talk to them as well. I like speaking to animals. Something that I did say when we were there once. We were talking about superpowers, like if you were able to do something, right? We were talking about being able to fly, but I was also saying I would love to be able to communicate with animals. Anyway.
Yeah. It did look like they were talking to us.
It did.
Because they would poke their heads out and their mouths would sort of protrude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were really cute turtles there as well, and frogs, and it was just like, oh, so nice to be among the animals. We both wanted to be marine biologists when we were younger.
Yeah, which is a funny coincidence.
Yeah. Something that random tangent that I love about being an illustrator or a writer is like you're able to involve other passions in one thing, because one day we went to a cafe and we took pictures of the koi fish, and we both had the same photo, and we drew sketches in each of our sketchbooks, and we had a little like drawing date where we drew one of the koi fish, and that was just so fun. Yeah. So even though we aren't actual marine biologists, we can still communicate with fish and draw them in our sketchbooks. Anyway, so that is Siddhartha. Then we came home to the most wonderful wedding gift from the amazing Emma from Emmy Reads. So I started reading Leon's box set of The Lord of the Rings for Game of Tomes. And spoiler alert, I am obsessed. Oh my god, I fell in love with especially the Fellowship of the Ring. I am in the middle of reading The Return of the King. We are reading it for May and June. Leon always likes to point out my Italian hand gestures. Anyway, we came home to this stunning wedding gift from Emma, and that is the illustrated box set of The Lord of the Rings, illustrated by Alan Lee. Oh my god, we were looking through them when we got home.
Incredible.
When we opened it.
Yeah.
Leon's in the middle of reading The Hobbit right now. Do you think you're going to still continue with it, or maybe give some time?
I would love to, and I'd love to read Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, but you also have other stuff going on.
There's a lot of other stuff that I need to do and read, and one of the reasons why I'm not super bothered about reading it, and this might sound bad, but I've seen the movies quite a few times, so I know the entire story really well. Yeah. I know there are things in books which don't come out in movies.
Writing, though.
I know.
Writing.
I know, but
I know what you mean, and they're also they're not going anywhere. You know, you have other priorities right now.
Yeah.
But they're here and they're beautifully illustrated whenever you want to pick them up.
Yeah. Or even just to flick through and see the illustrations.
Yeah, which are absolutely stunning. Like, mind-boggling how gorgeous they are. And when I was reading through his editions, because they weren't illustrated, they're from, I kept posting pictures about them and you guys were loving them. They're from Clarion Books, I think is how you say
Clarion.
it. Clarion? We're really great at pronunciation. Yeah, you guys were loving those, but they unfortunately didn't have illustrations. And the whole time I was reading, the descriptions, oh my goodness, I felt like I could eat them. They were so delicious. And I was just loving the world building, the way that he was describing like the characters and the scenery, and all I wanted as an illustrator was illustrations, because I had images in my mind, but I wanted to see how an illustrator would translate it. And when I discovered the work of Alan Lee, oh my gosh, I was telling Emma about these editions, and to come home to them was a dream. So Emma, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We love you. And it was just such a special wedding gift too, because we got married while I was reading these books, and they're so beautiful, and I fell in love with them, that they hold such a special place in my heart now as stories, but also as like the time in our lives that I read them. Mm-hmm. I read The Hobbit years ago, and I really liked it, but I didn't feel like a great desire to continue on, so I didn't. And then when we decided to read Lord of the Rings for the book club, I was so excited, so I loved Fellowship of the Ring. And then I read The Two Towers, and I really, again, also enjoyed it a lot, but I didn't love it as much as Fellowship, even though, like, on its own, it's brilliant, and I love the story. I am in the middle of reading The Return of the King. I'm like 1/4 of the way through. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I filmed some clips while I was traveling and visiting Leon, but I really wanted to just take time away and enjoy like life outside of filming and creating content, and just kind of like be inside the books without like thinking about making a vlog, even though I love making vlogs and I love like being able to look back on them. I did film a few random clips, so I want to make like a little Lord of the Rings video when I finish. Again, Emma, thank you so much. You are seriously the best. Leon's in the middle of quite a few books.
I was also reading Mastery by Robert Greene.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think I got around about halfway.
Mm-hmm.
That was very good as well. Also non-fiction. Mm-hmm. He talks about becoming a master of a certain craft or skill. Mm-hmm. So he talks about how to find sort of like your natural inclinations and what you're good at, where your interests are. Talks about looking back to your childhood to find what you were naturally interested in the most, and where your passions lie, because every individual is extremely unique. There has never been anyone who is exactly like you, and there will never be anyone who is exactly like you. With your specific DNA, your upbringing, and all the factors that go into making you. He talks about finding your life's calling, and then he talks about how to cultivate that and find a mentor and the value of mentorship. And yeah, I think that's where I got up to.
Okay, that sounds really interesting, especially like looking back on your childhood, because that's when I first discovered that I wanted to be an illustrator. It was just from a very young age, and I was asking Leon yesterday, literally, what is something that you did as a child or like as a kid that you would like to revisit again, keeping in touch with the child inside of you. And you can learn so much from yourself, because that's when I feel like you were most authentically you, because you didn't have outside influences like or societal pressures or like adult expectations or pressures or stress. I would like to maybe read some of that someday. I think that is all. So,
I think so.
We are married and we've been reading some really great books, and we wanted to share all of that with you guys.
I think there's only one more thing to say.
Yeah? Thank you so much for watching. We will see you again soon in another video, and
happy reading.
Happy reading!